Many assume police tactics only arise in high-stakes scenarios, yet the most frequent one occurs during ordinary traffic stops. Officers pose a question that seems offhand, almost trivial, but it's among their most calculated tools. They employ it because it prompts drivers to speak, speculate, justify, or confess without even noticing. That's why I term it the dirty question. It's effective on nearly anyone. In this video, you'll discover the precise phrasing officers rely on, why they use it, and how to reply with assurance and courtesy. This isn't about creating conflict or denying all cooperation. It's about understanding the intelligent approach to a common encounter. If you've ever questioned how a simple phrase can alter the course of a stop, this analysis will reveal all. Watch carefully. This is knowledge every driver should possess. Number 1. You don't have anything to hide, right? When an officer inquires, "You don't have anything to hide?" it appears they're moving the stop along, but the line's true intent is something else entirely. This question pressures drivers to prove a point they never originally needed to establish. The instant you attempt to convince an officer you're concealing nothing, you enter a dialogue where each word carries weight and every detail you offer provides more material for them to examine. Let's clarify this plainly. During a stop, an officer may ask questions, but you aren't obligated to answer beyond basic identification when legally required. This query is crafted to make you feel you owe an explanation. Unconsciously, most people react by speaking excessively, describing where they've been, where they're headed, what's in the vehicle, what isn't, or why they're anxious. None of this is necessary, and none of it aids you. The actual strategy behind this question is straightforward. If you reply, "I have nothing to hide," the officer might continue with, "Great, then you won't mind if I look inside." Suddenly, a casual exchange becomes a request to search. Many drivers are startled into agreeing, fearing a refusal appears suspicious. But the law functions differently. Your rights don't depend on whether you seem suspicious. You may decline a search respectfully, and that choice cannot be held against you. This question isn't about concealment. It's about inviting voluntary consent. If an officer already possessed legal cause to search your car, they wouldn't need your permission. They ask because they want your authorization. Once you agree, the entire search becomes lawful, even if you didn't fully grasp what you permitted. The smart way to navigate this moment is simple and completely legal. Use a clear, respectful statement that keeps the stop direct without offering extra details. A calm reply such as, "Officer, I don't consent to searches," suffices. No debate, no explanations, no narrative. You're merely exercising a right everyone holds. Number 2, where are you coming from? When an officer asks, "Where are you coming from?" it sounds like small talk, but during a traffic stop, this question serves a distinct purpose. It's meant to make you talk, because the more you say, the more opportunities the officer has to match your words with what they observe, detect, or suspect might be occurring. Most drivers answer automatically, feeling compelled to explain. They begin discussing where they were, whom they met, what they did, how long they stayed, and why they're driving. Yet none of that information is required, and none of it benefits you. Here's the crucial point. You aren't legally obliged to explain your personal movements. You might be driving from home, a store, a friend's residence, or work. None of that pertains to a basic traffic stop. But officers use this question because it often leads people to disclose details that can generate new reasons for further inquiry. For instance, if you mention leaving a restaurant, the officer may grow curious about whether you consumed alcohol. If you state you're coming from a friend's place late at night, they might start watching for signs of fatigue or impairment. The question is simple, but the follow-up possibilities are broad. Another reason this question is powerful is that officers compare your account with your demeanor. If you seem uncertain, alter details, or sound nervous, they may decide something is amiss, even if you're entirely innocent. That's why this query is so common. It opens the door to interpretation. And interpretation is the tool officers use to determine how deeply the conversation proceeds. The wisest way to handle this question is to avoid unnecessary storytelling. You don't have to justify where you were or defend why you're on the road. The law allows you to keep your movements private. A polite response like, "I'm not discussing my day. Am I being detained?" or "Am I free to go?" keeps the stop simple and prevents the conversation from spiraling into more questions. This reply doesn't challenge the officer or create tension. It simply keeps the stop on track. You remain cooperative and respectful, while choosing not to provide details that could cause more difficulty. In a traffic stop, clarity is power. You needn't recount your life story. You only need to follow the required steps. Everything else is optional, and this question demonstrates that. Number 3, mind if I take a quick look inside? When an officer says, mind if I take a quick look inside? It sounds casual, almost like a minor request. Yet this single question is among the most pivotal moments in any traffic stop. It's not about a brief glance. It's about obtaining your permission. And permission is immensely powerful in law, because once you say yes, even with a nod, the entire search becomes legal solely because you allowed it. Here's the concealed truth. If an officer already had lawful grounds to search your car, they wouldn't ask. They would inform you and begin the process. The fact they ask means they lack sufficient legal justification at that moment. So instead of relying on evidence, they rely on your agreement. That's why this line is so frequently used. It transforms a simple stop into a full vehicle search without needing additional justification. Most drivers are caught here because they want the situation to end quickly. They believe agreeing makes them seem cooperative, or they worry that saying no might cause issues. But the law doesn't operate based on appearances. You are permitted to refuse a search, and refusing does not create evidence against you. It merely preserves your rights. Consider what happens when someone consents. The officer is free to open compartments, check under seats, examine bags, and inspect areas you didn't anticipate. Even if everything is lawful and clean, an unusual, confusing, or misunderstood item can still create complications. Once the search starts, you no longer control what occurs. That's why this question matters so much. It shifts control from you to the officer. The best approach is clear and respectful. You don't need excuses, explanations, or self-defense. A simple statement like, "I don't consent to any searches," is all that's needed. It communicates your decision without turning the stop into a dispute. This maintains a professional interaction. The officer continues with whatever they were legally permitted to do, and you avoid a search that never needed to happen. You aren't being difficult. You're exercising a right every driver has, a right that protects you from granting permission you never had to give. When you comprehend this moment, you handle the entire stop with confidence. One sentence can keep the situation straightforward and prevent needless complications, which is why this question is among the most critical you'll hear during a traffic stop. Number 4, how much have you had to drink tonight? When an officer asks, how much have you had to drink tonight? They aren't asking because they already know you've been drinking. They ask because your answer can instantly shift a routine traffic stop into a full DUI investigation. This question is designed to open a new path, one many drivers follow without realizing its seriousness. Upon hearing it, people often feel pressure to defend themselves and respond quickly. Nothing, just a little, one drink earlier. Each of these replies gives the officer material to work with. Here's why this question is so significant. If you admit to even a single drink, the officer now has reason to investigate further. That can lead to more questions, field tests, or a breath test. And once you proceed down that road, the stop becomes far longer and more complex. Even if you're completely fine, admitting something opens doors you never needed to open. But here's what many don't realize. If you say none, and the officer believes they detect something else, perhaps the scent of mouthwash, tired eyes, or slow movement, they may think you're being dishonest. That creates another issue. Either way, the question pushes you toward a scenario where your words can justify additional steps. Legally, you're not required to answer this question. You must provide your license, registration, and insurance when asked, but you don't have to disclose whether you consumed alcohol. This question is used so often because officers depend on voluntary statements. What you admit can become evidence, even if you weren't breaking the law. The smart approach is simple, respectful, and fully legal. You don't need excuses, stories, or to defend something you'd rather not discuss. A response like, "I'm not answering questions," keeps the stop focused and prevents the conversation from becoming a prolonged investigation. This reply doesn't accuse, insult, or create tension. It simply keeps the situation on the proper legal path. The officer continues with the standard stop, and you remain protected from offering information that could be taken out of context. Traffic stops move swiftly. One question can alter the entire direction. Understanding this moment means knowing how to protect yourself with clarity, confidence, and simple words that keep everything straightforward. Number 5. Do you know why I pulled you over? When an officer asks, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" it may feel like the beginning of a normal conversation, but during a traffic stop, this question has a very specific purpose. It's designed to see if you'll guess the reason. And the moment you guess, you might confess to something they haven't even mentioned yet. That's why this question appears in nearly every stop. Officers want to hear what you think you did wrong before they state the actual reason. Imagine this. You're pulled over, and without thinking, you say something like, "Was I speeding?" Even if you weren't, that single statement can instantly lead the officer to respond. "So you were aware of your speed?" Your guess becomes evidence, not because the officer proved it, but because you said it yourself. This is how many drivers create problems they never needed to face. Another common error is listing multiple possibilities. Was it my turn signal? Or did I drift a little? Again, this grants the officer permission to explore issues they hadn't considered. The more you talk, the more openings you create. And that's precisely why this question is used. It leads people to explain themselves before learning the real reason for the stop. But here's the key. Legally, you are not required to guess or admit anything. The officer is supposed to tell you the reason for the stop. That's how the process works. When you start guessing, you're doing their job for them. The law doesn't require you to talk your way into a mistake. The best response is simple, respectful, and always correct. "No, officer. Why did you stop me?" This keeps the responsibility where it belongs, on the officer to state the reason. You avoid guessing, avoid confessing, and avoid creating new issues. This answer doesn't argue or challenge anyone. It simply keeps the stop focused on facts instead of assumptions. Once the officer explains, you deal only with that, not a list of extra problems born from your own guesses. Traffic stops often come down to small moments like this. The right sentence keeps everything clean and straightforward. The wrong sentence opens doors you never intended to open. Knowing how to handle this one simple question gives you control, clarity, and confidence during any stop.